Joining us this evening. We're going to go ahead and get started and call our meeting to order at 5:10 p.m. Dr. Hooker, if you would conduct roll call.
Yes, Madam Chair. Ms. Heidi Hensley, Ms. Claudia Butts, Ms. Linda Davis.
Here.
Dr. Patricia Yeager. Here. Mr. Tim Denson.
Here.
Dr. Mombi Anderson.
Here.
Dr. Lakeisha Gant.
Here.
Ms. Nicole Hull.
Here.
And Mr. Mark Evans.
And thank you. We do have a quorum, and we have Dr. Yeager who is calling in this evening. All right. We will move forward with our agenda for tonight. The first item is the board president report. Just a couple of, really a couple of updates with the, as we already discussed at our retreat, we are going to be, we've added like a facilities update. I think everyone has been able to take a look at that since Ms. Palmer shared our agenda with us. And then also you will notice that in our most recent board update, we did go ahead and basically compile the links of all of the information for West Broad. And so we did ask, you know, just simply based on the conversation that we had at the most recent retreat, that we have all of that information in one place so that we could actually see the conversations that have happened, the surveys that have taken place, and then also the general timeline. And so over these next few months, I do know we'll, need to have some ongoing discussions regarding what specifically we are going to do. And it's likely that those conversations will need to be a little bit more, well, all of them have been public, but certainly how do we integrate them into our meetings based on what the district is feeling it should do. And so instead of just having it show up on an agenda item in the spring or next year, we wanted to first be sure that all of us were reacclimated with most of the information that's already out there, including the proposals, but more importantly, the conversations that board members have had. And so that's under that update. And again, you should see that in the board update itself. It was, I think it was shared, Ms. Palmer, on Monday, or was it Friday? Okay. Okay, yeah. And so all of that information is there. If you notice that there's something missing, again, because we have had a few different conversations, but if you notice that something is missing, just let us know and we can be sure it's under that link. So as it relates to the Sustainability Committee.
Madam Chair?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Ms.
Yes.
Davis.
Thank you. Is that information available to the public, or is it just in our shared space?
Right now, Ms. Davis, the question was, is it available to the public or is it just in our shared space? I think we talked about this as we were figuring it out and placing it there. I just don't know that it's there yet. Ms. Palmer?
All the information that was shared has already, at some point, been shared with the public. It's from previous board meetings, executive summaries from board meetings. So if you would like that all compiled and shared again on the website or with the public, we can do that.
That sounds good.
Okay.
Thank you. But I'm sure I don't get to, that's just
No,
my
go
vote.
ahead.
I don't care what anybody, that's my vote. So if we have to vote on it, that's fine.
Okay. So it sounds like it may be your preference, Ms. Davis, other board members, that information at least is compiled in the same place for the public. Am I? Okay. Yep. Okay. Okay. And so that will be made available to the public. Thank you. Sustainability Advisory Committee, we have had a couple of conversations, and just as a recap, we started discussing the Sustainability Advisory Committee back in, I think, last month, and then we transitioned it to our retreat so that we could talk about it a little bit more and just flesh it out a little bit more, talk through what it is, the purpose of the committee was, but also what the deliverables and expectations were. And so that, that document and that information should be in Assembly as a part of that conversation. Just as a reminder, from the retreat, we talked about possible people or the type of representation we would want on the committee. From my recollection, Dr. Hooker, it was something that you were supportive of, and we talked about some district representatives as well as community representatives, the timeline of the work, being sure to incorporate students and other representatives from, and stakeholders, not just from the district, but from the schools as well. And so all of that has been reflected in the updated document. Now, when we spoke at the retreat, we did say that there may be some future additional people added because it was really impossible to identify everyone at that time. But the goal has been to include as many people that represented the areas that we wanted to represent up until this point, and then allow the committee to, to determine those additional people. For instance, schools. Schools will have to determine, in whatever way they determine necessary, what students will be a part of it. And so my point is there may be some additional changes, maybe additional people, but we do believe that we have a good starting place for this committee. Any questions? Those are my only two updates. Yep. Okay, Ms. Hall and then Mr. Denson.
I was just going to briefly ask you to mention the renaming ceremonies. They were beautiful. They were something that I think we should just acknowledge. Thank you so much for speaking on behalf of the board and representing us so beautifully. But I just wanted to acknowledge that, and I thought your report would be the appropriate place to do it. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hall. Yeah, it was a beautiful ceremony, and I do want to thank Dr. Hooker and Dr. Moore and Ms. Palmer and everyone that I'm sure pulled off really a pretty magical, two on the same day. But received a lot of positive feedback and have since then been able to watch some of the footage. And so thank you very much. Thank you, Ms. Hall. Mr. Denson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I see the Sustainability Committee report, and I appreciate this board just coming together and understanding the importance of this and that the community is calling for something like this to happen. I see the committee membership that's on here, and there's check marks for those who have agreed as of 10/27. I was just wondering if there's been any more people have agreed since that time, or if at least the folks who don't have the check marks, if they've been contacted yet.
I feel, and Tish and Dr. Yeager and Dr. Anderson, I'm trying to go back to any emails that I was a part of. I think that this is updated. There may be one person, I'm not fully sure. So it may be lacking one or two people. Dr. Yeager, can you speak a bit more accurately to this?
I couldn't hear the question. information, but I can confirm that the version that's up on Assembly is old. And we do have confirmation from everyone that we asked. The only change to what you have, except a check mark beside everyone, is Christina Hilton at the Career Academy really only wants to join us remotely. So we reached out to Halo Smart instead, and she has agreed. So Christina can join us remotely once or twice, but she wasn't able to come in person. But otherwise, everyone on this list, I believe, has said yes.
Okay.
And
thank
so
you.
there should be an updated version. I think that was a slight error. So
Okay.
you may have been seeing the first update and then, or maybe even the second update, but there is an updated version. We tried to just update it as like people responded at different times.
Okay.
I can
Awesome.
email it to everyone.
That would be good, Dr. Yeager. And then Ms. Palmer has also, what you just sent, she's placed it in Assembly.
The one that she just sent does say 10/27 as of 10/27/23. That's the one that I just uploaded.
Okay, but that one, okay, and I just pulled that one up, and yeah, I see a lot more check marks, so, yeah, awesome. Thank you all, appreciate it.
It's this one, yeah. Yeah, there's two up in there, and one of them is the most updated version. It's one that's got the lines under every section. So if you look at that one, the check marks are more updated.
Can you speak in your mic, Dr. Anderson?
Sorry. There are two documents in the agenda under there. If you look at the first one, the one that's got the blue icon, that is the most recent version. And if you open it, you'll see that it's got like lines separating every section. That's the one she just sent Lisa, Miss Palmer.
Thank you.
All right. And so those are the only updates that I can think of. Dr. Anderson, are there any?
I have one question. Are you taking any action on this committee tonight?
Yes. And so
Okay.
it should be moved.
Okay, that's,
Yep. And so we just had it here as an update so that so that it would reflect the changes as we talked about them, and in real time, ideally. But yes, it should be moved to, as an action item.
I'm having a hard time hearing the question, so if there's something I can answer, can you just ask me directly? I can hear your voice fine.
Yep. And there are no questions right now, Dr. Yeager, that I see. All right. We will move forward. These are our informational items and board community reports. And they are items A through F. The very first one starting with early Head Start. Any further? Or the Athens Community Career Academy report. The career here, hold on one second. Having a couple of technical difficulties over here.
they don't approve their minutes until next week, so that's why there's nothing there.
Career Academy.
Okay. What about give me one second here. The community oversight? Ms. Davis, did you have any?
No, so I'm just seeing this one because I read this part last week, so I'll have to refresh my mind. I didn't have anything when it wasn't here last time, but I've seen several emails from Mark, so I'm good.
All right. I don't have anything from the Athens Area Community Foundation, and I don't know that Ms. Hensley, I haven't seen anything, any updates. Okay.
Okay,
Oh, yep.
I do have a question, and I don't know if you answered this already, Dr.
Can you speak a
Hooker.
little bit closer to your microphone, Ms. Davis?
I had a question about the sales tax revenue for the August collection, and I want to know if we separate that by SPLOST and eSPLOST, or is it all just one bundle of money? Did I-
Which one are you speaking to?
I'm back to the report from the COC.
Oh, for Mr. Evans?
Mm-hmm.
And what was your question?
The question is, under sales tax revenue, we reported August collection of 3.25 million, and I want to know if that is SPLOST alone or SPLOST and eSPLOST or T-SPLOST. It's what now? eSPLOST alone. Okay, great. Where's T-SPLOST reported? We don't get T-SPLOST dollars.
Can you speak in the microphone, please?
Okay.
Thank
I'll
you.
translate for him. He says that's Athens Clark County Transportation,
We don't get
part
any
of money.
dollars.
We don't get any of that.
Wow. Okay, thank you.
All right. What about our Envision Athens report?
And I have the wrong attachment to that, so I'm uploading the right one, sorry.
Okay. So we should refresh. Okay. All right. Well, that's okay. While you're doing that, with the advisory board reports, we can take a look at those. Were there any follow-up comments or questions about what was shared?
So, just for the Superintendent's Advisory Student Committee, we met with them last week, I'm sorry, not last year. That was a great committee. We had close to 20 students, I believe, 25 who were in attendance. They gave us some updates on safety. We discussed safety, and they gave us some ideas as to how we can improve safety at our high schools. Our Teacher Advisory Committee, we met with them on last week as well. Dr. Blankenship and her team did an overview of the opportunity culture, as well as Mr. Bailey and his team gave an update on the HVAC system, similar to the presentation that they will present to you tonight. So it was both meetings were very productive, and both committees were appreciative of what had been shared.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Hull?
I know at the previous tab, there was a lot of concern about the new reading curriculum and a lot of just questions around, I think, questions for clarification. At this tab meeting, did you see that same concern, or had that been eased? Had those concerns been addressed and kind of not still as sensational at this point?
I'll answer as much as I can, and then I'll ask Dr. Scott to join in. During that meeting, we really didn't discuss that. We're doing impact checks with all of our schools. We've heard great information. Teachers have shared how all students are learning from that curriculum, especially our special ed students who are now speaking up, doing the whole group. They're not pulled out. They're with the whole group, so they have a voice, and they're being confident in their response and their interaction with students. If there have been any concerns from teachers, I believe the administrators have tried to address them, or our literacy coaches, but I will let Dr. Scott speak more to that because she's been attending more meetings than I have.
Thank you, Dr. Hooker. Yes, when it comes to checking and keeping a pulse on how we're doing around the implementation of the various literacy components, then we do make sure that we are checking in with principals, instructional coaches monthly through their PLC meetings. and they're able to provide us with feedback throughout the month through a document that is shared with them so that they can upload that information. But then we've also had our implementation specialists that are meeting with each school's administrative team throughout this month just to get a pulse check on what additional supports do you need, where are you seeing some areas for growth, but then also areas for celebration. We also had an opportunity to get feedback from our actual professional developers with our Wit and Wisdom literacy series. And as we shared last month, then they were very impressed with the level of implementation that we're seeing thus far and gave us a lot of great feedback around next steps just to support that with our teachers. So as it stands right now, the questions that came in from TAB were fairly school-specific. And so with that, then that's us reaching out and working with those building leaders to even make sure that they're aware of the things that were brought in. What we learned is that they were not aware of the questions that teachers had sent to us. And so with that, then we always want to make sure that the building leader is aware of where teachers might need some additional supports and give them that opportunity to provide that, but then also make sure we don't need to step in to support them with that as well.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any additional questions? All right, so that was our advisory board reports. I did not see anything from parent advisory board, and so I'm assuming they don't have any updates or haven't. Okay. All right. Envision Athens, we're circling back around. Let's see. Is everyone able to access the newly uploaded information? Any follow-up conversations or any additional information, Mr. Denson or other board colleagues?
Nothing too much, just I want to make sure, we have an exciting, I think, event that we're planning for next year called the Long Table, which we're trying to create a community-wide dinner that everybody will be invited to for discussion, just kind of bringing people together, plus, of course, all the organizations, including the school district, that are a part of this. So that's going to be next spring. So I think it's an exciting thing that we're going to try to do every year and look forward to finding ways that this body can be a part of that and advance that.
Thank you. Any follow-up questions or conversation? All right, we are going to move forward to the facilities update, and under the facilities update, we have both the SPLOST monthly report as well as the facilities update. Dr. Hooker, I'll turn the floor over to you.
All right, Mr. John Gilbert will do the presentation for the SPLOST report, followed by Dr. Askew to do the facilities update.
Do you want to go to the pictures? Are there any questions on the report, first off, board members? Let's go to the pictures, Lisa, if we can. This is a kind of a combination of multiple projects, so just kind of bear with me as we go through the descriptions. So I'm happy to report that both of our roofing projects, Clark Central and ELC East, are complete. We've taken a couple of photos here of ELC East. You can see this was the earth shelter, which was covered in 3 feet of dirt, which we removed, replaced the roof, did some EFS work on the outside and some grading around as well. It's the next picture. It's just another view from the backside of the school. And then one more, Lisa. So that project's complete. Any questions? The culinary project, got a few photos here. Troy Bassett with our office did meet with the Heritage Committee, Ms. Platt and her group, and they approved the graphics package for the bistro. So I think we're in the works of getting that done, but here's just a couple of shots of going into the bistro area. We'll have a wait station or a hostess desk to come in. There'll be some graphics on that brick wall. Next picture. This is a view of the dining area. It seats about 20 to 24 people. Also has a buffet serving line if they want to do a buffet. Next photo. Kind of another view from kind of the opposite corner. This is the culinary portion of the kitchen where the students will prepare meals. So you can actually sit in the restaurant and look back to your left, and there's a full glass window where you can see the students preparing your food. These are some of the more equipment, the new hood that's been installed. And they have 10 student tables where they actually have power that comes out of the ceiling that they can set up blenders, mixers on the tables. Chef Amy's up front leading the instruction and demonstration. I've been there when they've made cookies. They were making, I think, omelets the other day. So she's actually going to have an event, I think, for the COC or anybody that wants to attend where they'll prepare some food for us so we can set that up with y'all. These are just some, so that's the new smoker. I think we can smoke up to 60 chickens, so we're going to give Costco a run on the rotisserie chicken. It's quite good. We've already done that. So and just some new pieces that they put in as well. So they actually have 2 full complimentary kitchens for the students to work out of, whether it's production in a private restaurant or in a school cafeteria. So they're getting exposure to all different kinds of the restaurant field. This is the classroom area. In addition to the cooking space, they have a classroom time in a separate space as well. All right, Clark Middle, we've got a few more photos here. We have some aerial shots from back in October, and this is just kind of gives you an overall view. This is looking from Baxter and the libraries to our left, kind of showing you the scale of the project, the 3-story addition wing in the back. It's just another view of the 3-story wing. It's further along now. You'll see as we go through this, the progress. That's the framing of the media center, kitchen, cafeteria. The portion that we're standing on the slab right now, that's part of the gym. So we can only build a section of the gym. The rest of the school will be done in phase 2. And these are just some shots from around the perimeter of the school showing the progress of the masonry work, getting the building dried in. Bricks complete on 2 out of the 4 sides, so they're making good progress. Just another shot from Dudley. Same thing coming around. That's the music area in the backside of the 3-story. Keep going a little further back. Troy went a little crazy with the photos on this one, so I apologize. And this is the new front entrance going in. For those of you that aren't aware, we're having a topping out luncheon tomorrow from 12 to 1. You're all invited. This is kind of a milestone in the construction project where they have achieved installing the uppermost structural steel member. We're actually further along with the roof being on, so but it's kind of a milestone to congratulate the workers and the team on a job well done. And they'll have a luncheon for them. And we'll take a little mini tour tomorrow as well. Hopefully the rain holds off till about 3, and we can get you in and feed you lunch and take a little tour. That's the media center. And that's looking back out at your front entrance. It's a 1.5 story tall for the front. And this is looking back toward the educational wing. These are just some photos of the inside, just showing you progress, installation of HVAC units, ductwork, electrical, things like that. Cedar Shoals, we're going to bid. It's out to bid right now. I hope to bring you something in December, if not December, January, to start construction. We have the modulars on site. It's a multi-phase project. and we've worked with the school on the phasing. We're gonna move ninth graders out to the modular unit and start on the lower left level of the school. And the modular units have been set, and we're in the process of hooking up the utilities to them. And that's just another shot from the auto shop. And there'll be a double wide for the ag science, for them to move out of the field house, so we can do that in phase 1 as well. Any questions?
Ms. Davis and then Mr. Denson.
So I'm going to take you all the way back to the Clark Central. I'm sorry, Clark Middle.
Yes.
Right? So that 3-story building is level with the library. The first floor is level with the library.
Yes.
Where are the gardens?
Guards are to the right. We didn't really have a picture because the contractor's using that for a lay-down area right now. But, yeah, they'll be to the right of the
Going
3-story
toward the
addition.
old building? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it'll be on the lower level. Because ag science is on the lowest level, so they'll be able to walk right out to their garden space.
Okay, and then so I haven't seen, I don't remember seeing, I know you probably showed it to us before. What does it look like street level once all the construction is done? The old building is completely gone?
Yes.
And so what happens to the clinic?
The clinic, we're actually building space inside the new school, so the clinic will move into the school.
Into the new school?
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, that was my Clark Middle question. And then so the next question that I have is for the, what was the next one after Clark Middle that you showed us? The
Cedar Shoals.
Yeah, what's happening at Cedar Shoals again?
It's a 20-year renovation. We're redoing a lot of finishes, HVAC, major systems, fire alarm, things like that.
So it's all interior kind of work and exterior maintenance?
Yeah, we're going to be, we're upgrading the air conditioning. They have PTACs right now, which are the kind of, lowest grade of what you can put in. We're putting in our VRF system to the classrooms, and then upgrading the finishes, as well as life safety systems. We're expanding the cafeteria to give them some more space, and doing an outdoor dining pavilion as well. And we'll be building a freestanding ROTC building for the ROTC program.
For some reason, I missed this entirely, this whole plan for that. So where will I get that?
It's on the, if you go to the SPLOST page, there
On our
should be a
website?
thing
I'll
that
go
says
look at it
Cedar
again.
Shoals, and it'll have
Yeah,
it there.
I don't
And I
know.
think it may be, now I could be wrong, but I think Cedar has been on the agenda, or maybe did we
Yeah.
take action on
Yes.
the upcoming
Hiring a
construction?
construction manager,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, so and I don't know which month that may have been in, Ms. Palmer, but it should be there as well.
I definitely remember the vote to hire the construction manager. I just hadn't seen any plans. And so that was, I just wanted to make sure I didn't miss that. Okay.
I
those were my
can send
two.
you some.
Thank you.
Mr. Denson?
Thank you. And my question is just on the Clark Middle. What is the timeline for phase 2? When will that be beginning and hopefully ending?
So phase 1 will finish so that we can move in August, July 31st of this year. And phase 2 starts immediately after that. I would anticipate about 6 months, 6 to 9 months, depending on the weather, but 6 months after that. So we would hope to January of 2025 be able to move into the rest of phase 2.
I have one more question.
Hold on one second.
After everybody, yep.
Mr. Denson, was that your only question? Ms. Hall?
Just a clarifying question. And so Cedar Shoals is not on the list to have their HVAC units
No,
prioritized because they are getting the expansion of the HVAC units
Well,
will be.
We're going to prioritize, if there are certain ones that we know that we have a problem with, we're going to try to do something between now and August. So there's a few of those, but since they are on the expansion list and renovation, we're we're gonna be doing that starting in January.
And can you just tell me what do something is? Because I saw the big things with the tube and that didn't work. So what's do something?
We're gonna, all new HVAC equipment throughout the campus. So we're gonna do it in phases though. And if we have an area that has failed prematurely, we'll try to get something done prior to getting to that phase. Particularly the Fine Arts Building. I think we've got a couple of issues there we're gonna address.
Thank you.
Ms. Davis?
Okay, so we just are about to get the Sustainability Committee going, right? How much green space are we using, and how much of any of this is green in already?
Define green space, like with the
Well,
gardens?
Well, there's the gardens, then there's the, what is it, the green technology with the heating, with the cooling, all of those things that we're about to take this huge look at. What percentage of the things that we're about to launch now have considered, or any of those things that are being brought forward by this Sustainability Committee?
Well, we're already doing a lot of it depends on how you define sustainability. We're already doing a lot of those items. We're upgrading all of our electrical fixtures to LED, so
Right.
it utilizes less electricity. The HVAC, we're going with the VRF systems, which is, again, utilizes less energy to heat and cool your space. A lot of the carpeting and such and finishes that go in the project have low VOC emissions. Again, that kind of goes to your sustainability as well.
So I'm thinking, I'm falling in love with solar because of so much noise about that, but are we looking at that in any of these projects at all?
Well, I think what you got to do is determine what you want to do with solar. Are you
Right.
trying to are you trying to replace the electrical that feeds the school? Are you trying to supplement that? Are you trying to generate electricity to sell back to the grid? So what are you trying to do? So we've actually been working with a vendor and the engineers. We're probably going to engage the students at Clark Middle, the ones that I guess that had presented the paper, and probably look on a smaller scale. Maybe let's tackle, say, the barn or the greenhouse to see what we can do down there, and actually do the research and information to see what it takes and what the system, to design a system, and then I'll have them bring that to you guys for you to review and see what you want to do. So we've already kind of done some of the initial legwork, but I want to engage the teachers and the students so that it's not just me handing it to them. It's like, I understand kilowatts and amp hours and all that kind of stuff, and I want to make sure they do. So it's, best way to learn something is to do it. So I'd like to have them roll up their sleeves and get their hands dirty, and let's do a little, figuring together.
I like that answer. Thank you so much. That's helpful.
All right, thank you. Are there any additional questions before we move forward?
Let me just
Regarding the report that was provided, I know you all also shared with us, you sort of triaged some of the, like the critical need areas for, I think I saw that, for our HVAC units in schools and.
I think plant services is going to
Okay,
be more
okay.
specific to that, but yes,
Okay.
We're working together on those items.
Yeah. Dr. Anderson?
In one of the documents that you shared, you or your team did a table of how much personnel is typical in the size of the district and the way that the district operates, and it appeared as though we are short-staffed. Am I correct in that?
Correct.
And Dr. Anderson, Dr. Askew is going to give you more information concerning that. He's up next. All right. Thank you, Mr. Gilbert. Dr. Askew, if you'll come forth and do your presentation, please.
All right, good evening, board members. Mark and I do have an update for you this evening, which is really kind of a recap of the report that you received previously 2 to 3 weeks ago. Before we get into the heart of that, Lisa. Before we get into the heart of it, I did want to go through the different types of maintenance. I felt like it would give you guys greater perspective on not only this report, but the work that we do on a day-to-day basis in the Plant Services Department and District Services. So as it relates to plant services, when we talk about maintenance, there are several different types. The first one is routine maintenance. That's what we do on a day-to-day basis. That's driven by the work orders. So anytime something breaks down or something wears out, you know, we go out to fix it. That's routine maintenance. In addition to that, we have a number of inspections which are mandated both by the local government and by the state that we do. That's a part of our routine maintenance. That's our day-to-day work. In addition to that, there's also a thing called deferred maintenance. Deferred maintenance, and that is related to what we're going to talk about this evening throughout the report, it's that backlog of maintenance projects that have existed for many years within the district that have not been attended to. And there's tons of reasons, you know, but first and foremost, typically it's going to be budget. Maybe cost was a prohibiting factor, or administrative priorities. But there is deferred maintenance that exists within the district as well. In addition to that, there are 3 other types. There's performance maintenance. That's the maintenance that you're going to do on your building systems to make sure that they keep running as they should in a smooth manner. So that's like an oil change on your car. A lot of that type of maintenance we do contract out, not all of it, but a lot of it we do. In addition to performance maintenance, there's also a thing called breakdown maintenance. That is the lowest level of maintenance, and you're going to hear me talk about that again this evening. Breakdown maintenance occurs when a building system has reached its end of life. And so it breaks down because the parts are worn out, and so now there's got to be a significant investment that takes place in terms of time, money, man-hours in order to get the system running again. You can also have breakdown maintenance if you have not done the routine or the performance maintenance as you should throughout the life of a system. And then the next level of maintenance is predictive maintenance. That's the highest level of maintenance. That level of maintenance is based on replacing building systems before they expire. And that is a practice within the industry. If you have a good predictive maintenance system going on within your school system or any commercial industry, you're not going to have a lot of breakdown maintenance that takes place because you're working with things that are within their serviceable life. But again, breakdown maintenance can happen, especially if you have systems that are beyond their serviceable life, or again, if they haven't been serviced throughout their lives in the way that they should. Lisa? Or I got that. So what's our day-to-day work? Our day-to-day work is really our routine and our breakdown maintenance. You know, working on the work orders, and you guys have seen flow path, is a big part of what we do in plant services. It's probably 80 to 85% of the job. And then of course there's breakdown maintenance. When systems fail, you know, we've got to get those things back running. HVAC, you know, is one that we're going to talk about this evening to make sure we're serving our students and our staff in the way that we should. But in addition to those 2 types of maintenance, there's also deferred maintenance, which we have not forgotten about. As I stated, we've got a lot of it here in the district. A little more than 18 months ago when I started here, we did a self-assessment, an internal audit, if you will, and we identified about $11 million in deferred maintenance projects. That's in addition to the $13 million in deferred maintenance on our HVAC, and you're going to hear Mark talk about that, that exists within the district. So the projects that we've been bringing to you guys over the course of the past year and a half, going on 2 years now, the genesis of that is our facilities refresh report, which is really / deferred maintenance. So we're bringing those deferred maintenance projects to you. Those are the things that you've been improving. Those are the improvements that you've been seeing at the schools, and we'll talk about those a little bit later. And as I said, for your awareness, there's about $11 million worth of those and about $13 million worth of HVAC that we need to do. This year, the deferred maintenance account was established, and we're very grateful for that. It's allowed us to do some things throughout the district that were much needed. But I will say there's more to be done. It was only funded at the level of $1 million. So we'd like to see in future budget cycles an increase in that so that we can do the things we need to do throughout the district. Okay, the focus As you guys all know, we had an unusually hot summer this past summer, and the forecast for 2024 is the same. It's predicted to be a hot summer as well. With that hot summer, and to be very honest, we have some HVAC systems that are old. They're past their serviceable life. So we were in a mode this summer of breakdown maintenance on a lot of our HVAC systems, and that's because they exceeded their lifespan. We need to replace them. We want to make sure that the district's not in that position anymore, and so we're going to talk about HVAC mostly for the rest of this presentation, but also we're going to focus on our work order system as well as our plant service staffing, which you asked about, because those things are inextricable, from the whole. So we want to talk about the pieces, but also the whole as well. So with that being said, I'll ask Mark to come to the podium, and he'll continue our presentation.
Thank you, Dr. Askew. Good evening, members of the board. I don't like to read bullet points, but I feel all of these are very important.
Can you speak closer to your microphone? Thank you.
I will try. I don't like to speak and read bullet points. I hear feedback. I'm going to cover each and every one of the bullet points contained in here. I feel they're all very important. The landscape, this is where we are today. We have approximately 2.4 million square feet of floor space to heat and cool. There are 2,000 units across all our buildings. Currently, we have 2 HVAC technicians on staff to serve our 2,000 units. This works out to 1 tech per 1.2 million square feet of floor space, or to think it differently, 1 tech for every 1,000 units we serve. Industry standards for HVAC technicians in commercial facilities range from 1 for every 283,000 square feet of floor space to 1 for every 300,000 square feet of floor space. We are significantly understaffed. We also have 1 HVAC supervisor who handles all administrative tasks for the shop and supports the techs in the field. We are currently on a 15 to 20 year cycle for HVAC refresh replacement. Industry standards and manufacturer's recommendations for HVAC refresh replacement based on operating conditions are 10 to 15 years. The current state of Ccsd's HVAC systems are contained in that Google Doc that we shared. From that Google Doc, we have identified the following schools as having a need for a priority replacement. The funding source for these is designated through SPLOST. At Betty Henderson Holston, we're looking at 56 rooftop units. We did have to replace one this summer. It tragically failed. At Johnny Lay Burks, we've got 2 units. 2 units take care of all of the classrooms, the front hall and the back hall, plus the grand hallways and collaborative spaces. Clark Central, on the west wing, we have a cooling tower. This cooling tower is slowly rotting away. I didn't get the information on the slide, but we did have it relined this summer. While we got a warranty on the application of the liner, the contractor says, I'm not going to guarantee you that your tower will last as long as the liner. So this is mission critical. Classic City High School has 2 extremely large rooftop units also. One takes care of the 2nd floor and the other takes care of the 1st floor, and it takes care of every room in that facility. At Gaines Elementary School, we have 60 rooftop units. They're responsible for the environmental air in the entire building. The landscape. We maintain 24 campuses, 2.4 million square feet of floor space, with a 25th building, Rutland, coming on board at the start of 2024. Rutland will push our floor space to 2.6 million square feet. Our maintenance staffing is as follows. We have 2 electricians, 2 HVAC techs, 2 plumbers, 5 general maintenance building techs, 3 groundskeepers, and 1 supervisor. In our warehouse, we have 1 supervisor, 3 warehousemen, and 1 mail courier. Staffing versus national standards. Regarding the maintenance techs, published national standards indicate one tech for every 50 to 75,000 square feet of floor space. Clark County currently has 21 techs, which equates to one tech for every 114,285.7 square feet. Again, this metric is based on how much building can one tech in any of the trades effectively serve. Again, there's our flow path. If you don't have it, that will take you straight to our HVAC, air conditioning work orders, and et cetera. It is live and it changes daily. So recent deferred maintenance projects. We have on tap to replace 2 units at the BOE gym. They've already been ordered. They are being built and shipped and hopefully installed early spring of 2024. Installation of 1 new rooftop unit for the media center at Holston Elementary. As I said, it didn't make, it just wouldn't run anymore. Installation of 2 rooftop units at the bus garage. Cleanup of the homeless encampment behind Stroud Elementary School. And probably the one that I appreciate the most is the turf soccer field at Burks Elementary. When that building was built, that has been a virtual mud hole. If it rains on Monday, the children can't play until about Thursday or Friday when the water finally gets off that field. Under the turf, we have it drained. It's all pulling away into the storm water, and they'll be able to play Tuesday after a Monday rain. Clark Middle School gym, we have a unit that we've been working on in the shop. It's ready to go. We need to get with some contractors and get that machine on the roof. Crawford Gym rooftop, we've replaced 2 units there. Some other projects that we have done, Lanterns Walk Bus Training Facility. We own that little neighborhood. We approached transportation, or they approached us about a place to go out where they would be shielded from the public and could train drivers. That has city-type streets, and it does have curbs. They are installing signs and et cetera, getting that thing ready to go as a training facility going forward. My favorite project of all that we've done, besides the turf at Johnny Lay, is the changeover to LED lighting at the Clark Central Cafe. Those ballasts and those ceilings with the old system were hard to get to, and they were just failing. That place is beautiful. You can actually go in there and see to do tasks of writing and especially eating in that facility now. Holston gym floor is pictured, but this summer we did 9 elementary school gym floors. We pulled up the carpet. You talk about an indoor air quality and talking about air conditioning. Well, the smells and et cetera play into that. We were so happy to get those carpets out of those elementary school gyms and get a fall-safe floor added in there. Also in that same picture, if you look to the top, there's 3 little shining lights up there. We upgraded the lighting system in that building to LED also. Timothy Road has been a long haul to get this playground set up in the back. If you're familiar with Timothy Road, the playground was maybe 30 feet, 40 feet from actual Timothy Road. That was supposed to have been moved years ago. The grounds that it was on had eroded. It was just kind of a logistical security nightmare with that playground up so close and so close to our property edges. We have moved that playground now to the back of the facility. It's more secure. And if you get a chance to go out there, please notice the pour and play rubber fall zones underneath that climbing equipment. So our next steps: increase funding for the deferred maintenance account. We have a lot of work to do. Initiate purchasing of the HVAC units for the 5 prioritized schools. Our ongoing HVAC replacement needs have been identified and will become a part of our yearly budget planning through the deferred maintenance account. Our HVAC refresh replacement cycle would be modified to a 10 to 15 year span versus the current 15 to 20 year format. 2 additional HVAC techs will be requested in the fiscal year 25 budget. At least 3 additional building maintenance techs will be requested in the fiscal year 25 budget. Questions?
Ms. Hull and then Ms. Davis.
Dr. Hooker. When approximately in a timeline can I be expected to go? And this is not HVAC, this might be for Dr. Askew. Can I go to Gaines School and expect to see their playground look as beautiful as Timothy's or someone else's, some of the other elementary schools?
So that equipment's on order, and we actually met with the vendor at GASFA 2 weeks ago. So the date has been pushed back a little bit to January, but we expect a mid-January install. So it'll be in place by then.
And the other question was about the cafeteria lighting at Cedar Shoals. Do we have LED lights in the cafeteria at Cedar?
So that's going to be a part of the renovation. Am I correct, John?
Thank you.
Ms. Davis?
Thank
And
you.
then Mr. Denson.
So my question is, again, back at Gaines Elementary, their playground is mud too, because I've been there, and after rain, the kids can't go out, or if they go out, they come back in dirty and all muddy. So the playground equipment is one thing, but also something with a drainage out there. Is that going to be addressed, or has it already been addressed?
We actually have a 100 by 50-foot turf area out there at Gaines.
So their playground will sit on the turf area?
Their playground will be separate from that. It will be, again, like the Timothy Road picture, it will all be together in an area, and it shouldn't have the issues because it will be new, it will be drained.
One other thing too, I'd like to say about at Gaines. So as Mark stated, they are going to get the new playground. They're going to have the pouring place. So it's going to look just like Timothy. It'll be in sections though. It won't be all in one spot because their playground's set up in sections. They have a turf field just like the kids do at Burke's. But to your point, Ms. Davis, yes, there is a large area. It's about 3 to 4 acres out there. That's a huge area in the back. There's two things to consider. One, well, there's several things to consider. One, there's planned expansion back there when the school expands. But beyond that, there is no irrigation in the back of the building. And so because there's no irrigation and because of the constant foot traffic, you know, it's not a space where we can plant grass or do sod because it's not going to grow unless we're going to do a really significant investment in terms of going back there with the irrigation and making it so that we can sod it, you know, or can plant grass. But that would be something to discuss, but it's not going to be something that's going to be inexpensive or quick. But we did give them, like I said, the same turf field that we did for the kids at Burke, and they're going to have the same playground with the pouring play and everything as the students have at Timothy.
Thank you. I'll be back with that one. Okay, and then the other question that I had about the $11 million, right, is what we need to bring how did it get there? So, I mean, how long did it take us to get to being $11 million behind on routine maintenance and on all that? So how did that happen?
Past priorities.
Yeah. So is it, again, I'm just trying to figure out, so the additional workforce will get us to a place where we don't see this kind of backlog. It feels like a huge backlog. When I read that report, I have a book, promise you. Now, I'm going to clean it up before I send it to you. But it's kind of like, what happened that we don't have some warning signals that we're approaching these limits? It's kind of like, I don't know how else to say it. So what have people done absent these improvements that we need?
I can kind of lay out a little bit of a history. I've been here for a long time. I was the HVAC supervisor.
Okay.
I was asked yearly for reports about what was failing, and I would send them to my supervisor, and that was as far as they went, as far as I could tell from my boots.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to see this. It's really good to always understand where we are. We definitely have something to spend some time on and some money on. Thank you, I appreciate that. Very detailed report.
Go ahead, Mr. Denson, and then Dr. Anderson.
Okay. Yeah, thank you for all this information. And I guess my first question is just is this to ensure I'm reading this right, that we have $11 million in deferred maintenance projects, and then also about 13.6 million in HVAC replacements. And I'm guessing that those do not cross over at all, that those are, so total, if we're talking about deferred projects, including HVAC, it's 24, almost $25 million? Or is there some crossover?
There's some crossover in there.
Okay. Okay, well, that's good to know, so it's not as, so on that, I would love to be able to see, kind of like y'all did a little bit with the HVAC assessment, but a little bit with the deferred projects, and maybe, if possible, a little bit of more of a clear breakdown of like a timeline of what the optimal maintenance would be for those deferred projects to help us in our budgetary negotiations of really understanding, you know, what, because I definitely agree that $1 million is insufficient for the deferred amount that we're putting aside now, but what is that optimal amount that we need to have every year? And you know, obviously that's going to change, so I'm thinking, you know, what do we need to put in the FY, you know, 25, but also what do we need to have put aside in FY 30, that kind of thing, just so we can have kind of ahead of us so that we can really get it on top of this. And then my last, that was more of a comment, that I would love to have that as information. And my last question is, when I went through the HVAC assessment, and I definitely like this, it's very detailed and broken down, and just really just going down it and kind of eyeing it, I'm seeing that the category of needs action now is over $7 million worth. And so I'm wondering, I guess this is a question to y'all about what, again, optimally what we'd be doing, but I'm concerned about that because next summer, with, you know, actually May, you know, June is going to be probably rough. And I want to make sure that we're prepared for that, and that's going to be here before the next budget process is completed. What do we need to be doing to get on top of this? And again, I think we've talked about that. We have a very large general fund balance right now that obviously we don't want to blow through, but I think that when we're looking at such an amount, $7 million of needs action now, I would like us to have a bit of a plan that we're acting, you know, before a year from now or so.
Mr. Denson, that's a great commentation. We are working with our CFO as well as our operational and maintenance team to develop that and provide timelines as to what needs to take place. And I do want to thank their department for putting together this presentation. As you notice, we went from 15 to 20 years to 10 to 15. Those are things we're looking at, and we have to think. The district went through a recession from 2008 to 2012. We lost a lot of our maintenance people during that time period, so it hadn't been backfilled. So those are things we're working to ensure that we have the proper people in place. And we're working with our CFO and others to, how do we pay for this? So we will have a plan in place, and we'll be glad to share it with you.
Dr. Anderson?
So I didn't see Cedar in that list of HVAC immediate needs. Is that because of the renovations that are going to take place? Yes. Okay, but I heard someone say in the meantime there will be some mediation happening with the current units so that they're not sweltering?
Correct.
Okay. And then the platform that you all shared the link for how you track the maintenance that's happening and who's done what, and I can't remember what it's called, but you shared that link with us and we all have access, the flow chart. Flow path. Is that something that I noticed in the tutorial that there's a lot of functionality in that platform, and then when I look at the actual use, from the district, it doesn't seem like a lot of the functionality is taking place. And I wonder if it's used to its full capacity, and I'm sure you all are paying for it, is that a better system to track deferred maintenance rather than relying on a supervisor who will not communicate to the district or whatever? So that to avoid those breakdowns in communication that may cause decades worth of deferred maintenance, is there a system like this that can be used that everyone has access to, that you're already paying for, where you can use it to its full functional capacity?
That system is very convertible. Dr. Askew has an icon on the start page down at the bottom called Facility Project Requests. And whenever we have something that's not a maintenance item, but is something the school wants, they can go in there and check it. And whenever I get that and it gets accepted, I turn it into a work order, and it stays within that flow path module. And it would be very easy to establish that and get it set in there, all the way down to schedules and et cetera, with deferred maintenance as we move forward.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you very much for all of this information, and we certainly look forward to hearing from you, Dr. Hooker, regarding how we can best prepare to support our facilities. All right, we are going to move forward to item 6. And item 6, these are our policies. For updates, you will notice here there's also a small change. We have our policies for board review and then future policy discussion from the board. And this is where we can just place future items particularly, and also see if there is a consensus from the board that we place those items there. So first, our policies for board review that are listed, we have 2. Dr. Hooker, do you want to provide an overview of these or any additional information?
There's no additional information unless Ms. Bonace has anything she needs to share with the team. No.
Okay, thank you. Additional feedback or questions from board members? It's our policy FDC, the board policy for naming facilities, and then the policy IA, and this is the instructional program philosophy. Yes, Mr. Denson.
Thank you, and I appreciate Ms. Bonace and staff for working on these, especially on the renaming policy. I think this is it's a very thoughtful and thorough policy that I think really balances the ability to make changes when it benefits the community for us to do so, but also ensuring that there's a balance of feedback and community input and interaction with it. So I definitely appreciate that. And I did have just a question on board policy IA and
Where is that?
the instructional program philosophy. Yeah. On that one, so I guess it's more of a question of like, if this is, I like the idea that it's really just kind of pulling from our strategic plan and plugging in some of the high-end notes of our strategic plan into this instructional program philosophy. I guess I'm just curious, is that the norm of how this is done? Because I do like that, but is this the norm of how this is done, and therefore would this policy just be updated every time the strategic plan is updated?
This will be done each time a policy is updated, but you will notice whenever we're presenting or anything, we will point out which strategy or action step we're using from the strategic plan. That's why we've incorporated this.
Okay.
All right.
Additional, oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Denson, were you, okay. Ms. Butts, and then Ms. Davis, did I see your hand? Okay, Ms. Butts.
So I have questions about the naming of the facilities policy. Asking that we revisit that policy. I think it's I like the part about the community being a part of the decision, but with the part about the nominee must be deceased or retired from the district for 10 years, I think that's extensive because we're renaming a facility in this person's honor. Why should we wait until they're dead to rename that facility or that place? And then why 10 years is kind of extensive as well. So I don't know, are we able to relook at the policy or what can we do?
At this time, this policy is being reviewed. You can send your input as to how would you make some changes to this policy. Again, that will go to a vote from the board, and if all consent, we will make those changes.
Okay. If there are no addition, I have some thoughts as well about the renaming policy, and sorry, I have a few different policies up, and I don't know where mine went. But just from what I recall with reading it, it has been a couple of days since I read it, but I do first want to thank the district for going and doing research and pulling this together. I know when we talked about the renaming of the facilities, one of the sort of the consistent pieces of feedback was involvement of the community in the decision-making process. And so I certainly think that that is important, as well as the timeline. You know, on the other hand, there are some concerns that I have about this. Number one, and I may be misunderstanding this, but based on what I read somewhere in here, there would be the creation of the naming committee, and that it's the responsibility of the superintendent to bring forth a recommendation to the board. And from my understanding, that naming committee is put in place or is recommended to the board by the superintendent, and definitely has different stakeholders that we certainly would want to hear from. My concerns are, one, that when we look at the history of our community, we've had multiple superintendents over the past many years. And placing such a critical decision at the hand, this is not anything definitely against our current superintendent, but we also know the tenure of superintendents is very short. And districts are in a place sometimes where they have superintendents come in who are not fully knowledgeable about the history of their community. That's a concern. Another concern is I do think, going back and looking at the policy that we have now, are there some tweaks? Absolutely, as it relates to a timeline. But it's very, I think there are hard things that the board has to decide, and that's the truth of the matter. And if we could create committees and, you know, to determine all of the difficult decisions, then I don't know where that places us. And I feel that these are such important decisions that it concerns me that we definitely want community input, but then that means we sort of place it in the hands of the committee. While I can't tell, no one can really predict what would have happened when, but I have a pretty strong suspicion with the most recent renaming that would have been a long fight, because we have a history here, and it is a racial history. And I don't know what that would have looked like, what that actually does to the honorees. And I don't mean just a building, but I mean spaces too, because I think I saw changes for spaces too. And that concerns me. it concerns me that there is a timeline. There are a lot of different things about this revised policy that concern me. I do appreciate the spirit of it, but there are some things that that concern me about this policy. And then lastly, I'll just say, you know, when we took action in February, and part of that motion was to also look at this policy. And so I am very happy that we're here because that is what we said we would do. But I also have to ask the question, why are we here once we decide to name a facility after 2 African-American women? Why does the policy have to change so drastically? I don't know that it does. I think there is a way to involve the community. There is a way to modify the timeline without shifting this decision, critical decisions like this, to committees. It does not mean that we won't get feedback, but it does concern me with the significant amount of changes. And I didn't want to, I know right now we're just deciding to put it out for public review, but I did not want to not share those concerns. Ms. Davis.
So based on your comments, and I'll confess, I have not had a chance to get to this part of our agenda, so I haven't read it. So when I read it, I'm sure I'll have a different response, or maybe I won't be. But I feel strongly that this is a period of celebration for these 2 people who received this, and I would like for us as a board not to go on the heels of their celebration and change this policy. I think that it's harmful to them as, again, it appears that it's because of them that we are making this change. I would rather we push this forward to perhaps January and look at it after we've had a resting time to see if we can understand exactly what the concern is. And so again, given our history and where we are, I would like for us to table this policy until January.
Any additional feedback? All right. Mr. Denson.
Thank you. And I just want to make a clarifying point, just so that no one thinks that I didn't make that motion, that changing this policy was in reaction to us naming the school after those the 2 individuals who definitely deserve to be honored, and I am very excited that we did so. My recommendation and my thought still of the policy needing to be changed is because no matter who we're naming, I think the policy is lacking specificity and engagement protocols. And I think that caused some confusion on this board, or at least I can't say on this board. It caused confusion with me. I can just speak for myself. And I think it caused some confusion with the community. I have no problem if we decide that we don't want this to be muddied or anyhow involved with the names of Holman Elementary and Berks Elementary, because it has nothing to do with those 2 women. Those 2 women deserve it, and I'm glad it happened. This is just for moving forward into the future. Whenever this body, no matter who's on it, decides to try to take actions, that there is just a clear and precise policy. And I definitely think that it really makes sense for us to dig into it. I'm definitely sure there's changes. I think 10 years is also longer than most these policies that I've seen in the past. It's usually 5 years or so. So I think that there needs to be some changes there, but I think the policy just needs to be updated, just like all of our policies need to be updated quite often. So.
And we welcome your input on that. I agree. If we want to push this off into January and give some time, I think it's important that we hear from the public as well as to how we make these changes. Our team is willing to work to ensure that we do what's best for the entire community in renaming of schools. So we're supportive of whatever efforts you want to make to change this policy.
All right, so I guess that's the feedback for the the policies for board review. Um, I- So that will still be on our agenda, and obviously we can take whatever action at that time. Future policy discussion for the board, I do want to open up the floor so that we can be sure we'll hear from people, and then be sure there's a consensus, and then be sure that we plan to include these policies. Ms. Hall, I saw your hand.
Yes, so I would like for us to review policy JDD, student suspension. And I specifically would like for us to look at how we run our student tribunal process. And I don't know how much you want me to go into detail or why or.
That's okay. Can you state the policy again so Ms. Palmer can record it for us?
It's JDD, student suspension.
Okay. And generally, I'm just sort of looking at colleagues, would that be okay for future policy discussion? Okay. All right. Mr. Denson, any additional policies that we need to put on the radar? Ms. Davis, Ms. Butts, Dr. Anderson? I would ask that we would also place policy GBRH. I know that is one that we recently reviewed, I think earlier, and made some changes to in January. Some pretty significant changes and good changes. And I would ask that we take another look as it relates to, it deals with our leave, sick leave, the amount. I know and just to give a little context, I know it's sort of come up before, but we have things that happen during the school day. And so for some of our colleagues, sometimes it just depends on like their leadership, if they're able to leave, and sometimes it's educational things. And so really, I would love the board support and the district support in thinking through what are some of the like policy implications for leave. I know some institutions in Georgia have educational leave that people are able to do. Our graduations for the past few years have been during the day. And so at any rate, if the board agrees, I would like for that policy just to be revisited. It was policy GBRH. Okay. Would that be okay with board colleagues? Okay, see, Miss, okay, all right. Okay, we will move forward then to item 7. These are our business items for discussion. We have the October 12th, 2023 work session board meeting minutes. Do we want to place that on consent? Okay. Our financial report.
Yes, I'm going to ask our CFO to come and present our financial report to
Okay.
you.
I think we're still on. Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Okay, gotcha. Sorry. Better with numbers than I am with microphones. So, I'll get Lisa or Ms. Palmer to pull up the September financial report. So you have before you the financials as of September 30th. Keep in mind this is 3 months from our year end. Going forward, these will be on a monthly basis. Again, this is the first page is a summary of those financials. Keeping in mind that these, we use historical trends. It's been used in the past as well. So there are going to be some differences between revenues and expenditures. There's nothing of concern as of September 30th. Revenues were a little bit behind, a little 350,000 less. Actual expenditures were 1.7 million more. That's mostly timing differences. There may be subscriptions, items that we typically may have paid later in the year, we paid up front this year. Just some timing differences there. Again, nothing of concern. Fund balance, this is the lowest point our fund balance will be during the year. We're at 36 million as of the end of September 30th. We, just because of the timing of our revenues, we get our state revenues on a monthly basis. Our property tax money mostly comes in October, November. So we took in 73 million in the month of October in property taxes, for example. So our fund balance is gonna be probably close to 100 million at the end of October. So it'll start decreasing. This is typical of every school district in the state of Georgia just because of the way our revenues time out. The next few pages are just kind of a recap of that. You have the fund balance, we have the projection there. The gray line is the 15%, which is what the state has always used as a guide. With us being we have a waiver where we can go above that, so we're typically around 25%. The blue line is where we're actually at. The orange line is where we're budgeted, so we're just slightly off of that. That will look drastically different in October. Lisa, if you could go to the next page. Here's our revenues. This is kind of recaps. You've got, go down a little bit more. There we go. So you got July, August, and September. So the blue being the actual, orange being the budgeted. And then the expenditures, same thing, just the same recap I just did here. You can tell that our expenditures same. We're kind of close each time. You know, August is when we had some of those prepaid items that we typically, you know, paid ahead. So that's why that number, the actual's a little bit higher than budget. And then you have all the paid invoices. Keep it in mind, this is a large report because we're doing July through September. Next month, you'll just have October, so it'll be probably 2 or 3 pages. And then some other supplemental information, just our professional and our legal fees. And then any board expenses, which I don't think we had no board for travel. I think that's actually just travel for board members, which we had none so far through September 30th. And then the last report is just where we have to recap all the funds. There's a bill that was passed several years ago that we have to provide at every board meeting, just a recap of our revenues and expenditures by fund. So that's what that last report is. And I'll be happy to answer any questions y'all might have. One other thing I want to point out real quick. October's financials are mostly done, so what we'll probably do is do that in the board update, if that's acceptable, like we did last time, just kind of a summary, or like I did last time, and then of course, at the December board meeting, you'll get the full financials. That way, we're kind of getting the summary to you a little bit quicker, and then the full financials will be, you know, at the next board meeting. So.
Thank you. Any questions? Yep, Dr. Anderson.
Just a really quick question. You said really fast that we have a permission from the state to exceed our fund balance. Why do we need that, and why is it important?
15% has always been the guideline that the state said you should have more in reserves than 15%. It used to be an audit finding if you went over 15%. I think with us being a charge system, we have a waiver in place where it's not an audit finding. It's basically, it's kind of interesting because I just attended the Georgia Association of School Business Officials Conference was this week. And there was a conversation about most every district in the state has excess fund balance now that's over 15%. A lot of it's just with the excess federal funding we've had, some of those expenditures have been shifted to the CARES Act money to ARPA funds. So most every district has that where the general fund balance exceeds 15% right now. So. Did that help answer the question, Dr. Anderson?
It did. I'm just confused why. I mean, we're responsible for taxpayer money, so yes, why do we want to exceed the recommended 15%?
I think the goal in most districts were always close to that 15%. It's just, like I said, with expenditures have been kind of shifted. I think that's something we need to look towards the future with the deferred maintenance. What I've seen happen in other districts, the last one I was at, is we would move some of that reserve money over to capital projects and separate that out. So I think that's something. Of course, as we go into next year's budget cycle, we got to look at our ARPA expenditures as well and try to figure out what that's going to look like. And we're going to start those discussions at the end of November amongst our superintendent's cabinet and start trying to do some planning on that as well.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
Ms. Davis.
So thank you. And as we look at this fund balance now, I am always reminded of the 2 unfunded initiatives that we haven't set aside money for, and that is the School C and the Maxine ESIM. We need to put money in those piles so that as we continue to grow and look for expansion, that money should be somewhere set aside, earning money, so that we can actually try and build a school with the amount of money that was in there before. I think it's something around $7 million that we owe to those. And so I don't want us to look at the overage in our fund balance as free money. It is not free money. A lot of it has already been committed to things where we borrowed from it before and have not repaid it. So I'd love for us to not have unfunded mandates at the district level. And if we don't need those schools, then I would like for us to go to our legislative body and see if we can get relief from having them as a part of our plans for the future. It's just one of those thorns. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
All right, thank you all.
All right. The budget amendment is item C.
You want me to go ahead and address that as well?
Please.
All right, we'll get that pulled up. This relates mostly to the purchase of Rutland, which was not a budgeted expenditure, so this is the budget amendment number 1 to add that to our general fund budget, which is using a little bit of our fund balance. So I'll wait till Lisa gets this. So 2 changes I wanted to recommend. Excuse me. One is the purchase of Rutland, so that's an expenditure. The other thing I noticed is our investment income. We budgeted $150,000. We're in a very favorable market right now. I firmly believe that we should manage the cash that we have on hand, be prudent with that. The average rate we're getting on our accounts now is about over 5%, probably like 5.2, 5.3%. So I try to manage that pretty much on a daily basis. So I feel like even adjusting our interest $3.2 million is probably still a little conservative. I think we'll probably hit over $3.5 million. So my proposal is to adjust our interest income and then also adjust the purchase of Rutland, which would create a deficit of about $1.5 million, but I firmly believe throughout the year we'll make up that deficit of $1.5 million. This would take our fund balance down to about 24.3%, roughly. And I'll be happy to answer any questions y'all might have on that budget amendment.
Okay. All right. Should we, do you all want to keep this, items B and C on a consent agenda? Would you like to? Okay. All right, I don't see any no's, so.
Consent.
Okay, all right. So Ms. Palmer, both of those can be on that consent agenda with the work session meeting minutes. What about the purchase of the kitchen pass-through equipment?
Consent.
Consent, all right. Okay, and then the plumbing contract for Cedar?
Consent.
All right, and the electrical contract for Cedar, Shoals Modulars?
Consent.
Okay. Centegix, Crisis Alert Platform?
Consent.
Okay, and Ms. Davis, did you have a question? Okay, all right, you do have okay, so consent? Okay, we'll keep that on consent. All right. And, oops, okay. The request to increase existing services to the early Head Start services. Nope. Mr. Denson?
I just wanted to add some clarity because whenever I was on the policy committee, it was like concerning to me until like I completely understood what was happening there. And so this is just going to be removing 20 of what are the home-based slots for families because there's really just low demand for it. They're not filling them. But we're expecting and seeing that there is a higher demand and also like a higher community impact by focusing on this with pregnant women. And so we'll be moving those slots into that, but not changing anything when it comes to personnel or funding or anything, just simply kind of reacting to where our community needs are, so. Yeah.
Yes, you're correct. I had a conversation with Ms. Suzanne Kennedy concerning that, and I agree with her that we need to make that move.
So yeah, I would move for that to be on consent. Yeah.
Okay, so consent, looking at my board colleagues, okay. All right, and the board personnel report? Okay, consent?
Consent.
Consent? Okay. All right. The Nita M., is that Lowy 21st Century, is that Nita M. Lowy 21st Century Fostering Future Success Program request for proposal of intent to apply. Mr. Denson.
I just had a quick question for Dr. Hooker on this, and yeah, completely support. I think this is great. I was curious if staff had an idea of what the likelihood is. Is this something that we apply for often and we almost always get it, or is this something that's a little bit more of a competitive kind of bid for this grant?
And I'm going to ask Dr. Phillips, who oversees this program, to
Okay.
give you an overview of this.
Thank you.
All right, good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
The Nita M. Lowy grant is a federal grant that we apply for. It's been with the community, our community partner, Boys and Girls Club, since 2002. And each 5-year cycle, we do reapply. It's a competitive grant. And we have to make sure that we're making adequate progress towards all of our goals and objectives. And if we do that, then it is pretty much, we will receive the grant.
Thank you. That's exactly what I was wanting. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, any additional questions? Do we want to move this to consent? Vote on it separately. Consent, all right. And our field trips. Consent, all right, so all of those are on consent. We move, we're at item 8. We are going to adjourn this meeting at 6:48 p.m. Thank you.
they'll get their trophies and then they'll go up and get their checks. Do you want we do 2 checks though, one for the kids and one to hang in the schools. Do you want the principal to come up and get the check to hang in the school as well? Okay. Okay. I'll just keep it with how I got it on program then. I was just trying to see if I needed to. Oh, that's fine. I'll turn back around. Nobody told me that, so thank you. I'll turn around. It seems awkward, but it just seems awkward considering that this is my audience. That's why it seems awkward. Oh, that's right. I forgot. We got the. I'm gonna sit right down. I forgot we had the other thing first.
We've got employee of the month. We'll do that real quick.
You want to put it
Take
back
just
where
a
it
couple
goes?
minutes. Be right here. Is that in the right spot? Okay. Hmm. Yeah, that's good.
All right, thank you for joining us this evening for our board meeting on November 9th, 2023. We're going to go ahead and call our meeting to order at 7:02 p.m. Dr. Hooker, if you would conduct roll call for us.
Yes, Madam Chair. Ms. Heidi Hensley, Ms. Claudia Butts,
Here.
Ms. Linda Davis,
Here.
Dr. Patricia Yeager, Mr. Tim Denson,
Here.
Dr. Mumby Anderson, Dr. Lakeisha Gant,
Here.
Ms. Nicole Hull,
Here.
and Mr. Mark Evans.
Okay, thank you. We do have a quorum. Dr. Yeager is also present. She has called into this meeting. We will move forward with item 3. This is our silent meditation and Pledge of Allegiance. First, I'm going to ask that you join me for a moment of silent meditation. Thank you. If you're able, if you would stand with us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance Thank you. Item 4 is our recognitions and awards. Dr. Hooker.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll ask Dr. Moore to come forward.
Thank you, Dr. Hooker, and good evening, Dr. Gant, board members. We have a couple of recognitions tonight. I will start the first one, which is our Employee of the Month for November. Our Employee of the Month for November is Ms. Patricia Morris, Counseling Department Receptionist at Cedar Shoals High School. And Ms. Morris, if you'll come on up while we say great things about you. And as you, I know it's going to be uncomfortable for just a couple minutes. As you can tell, Ms. Morris has quite the fan club. She came to Cedar Shoals at the start of last year and has already made such an impact and become so well loved that nearly her entire department, along with other members of the school staff, nominated her for this award. As Cedar Shoals Principal Antonio Derricott puts it, Ms. Morris is a person who anyone would love to have on their school staff. She is a go-getter, always a help to students and staff. She always goes above and beyond to help anyone with anything at the school, inside or outside of her department. The sentiment was echoed by many colleagues, as we said, most of whom nominated her from her department. Cedar Shoals counselor Christina Katsakis-Corden says, Ms. Morris is the epitome of better together. As the counseling receptionist, she works with students, the Cedar Shoals counseling team, staff members, and outside agencies working with students to make sure that our students get the support that they need. The way that Ms. Morris supports us as counselors allows us to give our best to the students as well. We love Ms. Morris. School social worker Angela Gay adds that Ms. Morris is not just seen as a receptionist, but as a counselor herself when she consoles students who need to talk with someone. She reassures students every day that their needs will be met and taken care of by not her, but the entire counseling team. Counselor Monica Quinones says Ms. Morris is a role model for kindness and resiliency for our students, and relate a favorite story about when a student drew Ms. Morris a thank you note just for being there for them. To this day, she says, the student often just comes by to say hello and give Ms. Morris a hug. And finally, a quote from Counselor Erica Wade. Ms. Morris is not just a team player, but is compassionate towards and cares about the lives of her students. Her ability to connect with students and offer them support by listening to them and supporting them in any way she can shows her genuine concern for their well-being. She has formed outstanding relationships with the students and families of CCSD. Ms. Morris is deserving of this recognition, for she is instrumental in enhancing the lives of those she interacts with. Please join me in congratulating a most deserving Employee of the Month, Patricia Morris. Now, Ms. Morris, I'm going to ask the board to make their way down, and Scott Thompson is going to present you with the bag of gifts we promised. This is given to you from the Athens Area Chamber of Commerce and the many local businesses that support our Employee of the Month program and contributed to this gift bag. All right, look this way and smile. And finally, do you have any family members you'd like to invite up for a picture? If so, come on up. Because we know you couldn't do what you do without somebody at home supporting you. Oh, that's a nice picture. Thank you very much. Your team? Yeah, come on. Come on, team. Remember that anyone in CCSD, in the CCSD community, can nominate an Employee of the Month, and you'll find more information if you just go to the link on the screen there. You can go to our website. Community members, faculty, staff, board members. Oh, that's nice. Wonderful. Congratulations again. I know I say this all the time, but doesn't it make you feel better when you leave here knowing we have people like this on our team? Really wonderful. Now I'm going to turn the floor over to Ms. Veronica Johnson, CCSD's Director of School Counseling and REACH Program Coordinator, to recognize a special group of students we have with us this evening. Ms. Johnson?
Thank you, Dr. Moore. Again, good evening, and I am Ms. Veronica Johnson, the Director of School Counseling and the REACH Coordinator. And on behalf of Clark County Schools, I would like to welcome all of our esteemed guests and students to tonight's presentation of our Georgia REACH Scholars Cohort 2023-2024. Please stand as your group or organization is called so I can also recognize you as well. Dr. Robbie Hooker, Superintendent for Clark County Schools, Cabinet members, school board members, Ms. Claudia Butts, Ms. Linda Davis, Dr. Patricia Yeager, who I believe is joining us via phone, Mr. Tim Denson, Dr. Mumby Anderson, Dr. Lakeisha Gant, and Ms. Nicole Hull. I would also like to recognize the Clark County REACH Interview Committee, but you stay seated because you need to remain anonymous, okay? I just want to recognize you. The Clark County Mentor Program, we thank you for your partnership in providing each scholar with a mentor. So if we have anybody here from the Mentor Program, please step forward or stand up. I'm saying step forward because my husband's on the board, but he over there being security, so step forward. Dr. Jennifer Scott, our Deputy Superintendent for Academics and Student Support. Ms. Tessa Barbazon, please wave, our Executive Director of Student and Family Support. CCSD principals and assistant principals of our REACH Scholars. Teachers of our REACH Scholars. And then finally, my middle school counselors. Of course, I was middle school. These are the people who worked hard to vet these applications, to make sure our students receive their invitations. And so I just want to make sure I give a special shout out to my middle school counselors. Guys, thank you all for being here again to support our students. You can be seated at this time. And I need to be as transparent as possible. As my pastor always says, please give flowers to people while they are living. So I need to give a few more thank yous. Miss Tiffany Williams, she's the Executive Admin Assistant for Academic and Student Supports. Miss Lolita Bryant, Community School Organizer for Hillsman, Fowler, and Stroud. She set up all of our beautiful decorations in the reception room tonight. Miss Angela Tillman, Executive Admin Assistant for our HR department. Miss Lisa Palmer, Executive Assistant to our Superintendent. Our awesome custodial staff, and Barbaritos, Mr. Keith Neese, downtown Barbaritos. I didn't do this by myself. I could not do this without the teamwork of those people that I just mentioned. And so I just want to make sure that they are recognized tonight for helping to make sure that our students had the best ceremony as possible tonight. So again, thank you to those people. Before I present our awesome scholars, I just want to say a couple of words to our scholars. I know I'm not facing you, but I know you can hear me. Please know that you are in a very unique position. Not only are you ahead of your classmates, you have one up on them. You've had an interview, so you know what it feels like to sit before a scholarship committee to earn a scholarship. You filled out an application for a scholarship. So just know that you are in a very unique position tonight. And in keeping with that, keep applying for scholarships. This is just the start of your great financial and academic future, okay? So keep applying for scholarships. And then my REACH scholars, I want you to know that our very first Clark County School District REACH scholars, they graduated in May, this past May. And so those were our first REACH scholars to graduate. And just to reflect on one from Bernie Harris Lyons Middle School, she is now a nurse, her dream job. And so just know that not only will this scholarship put you where you need to be in college, but it's gonna lead you to that dream job. And some of those dream jobs I heard about was from Michaela Ballard, who wants to be a business owner. And Michaela wants to create sustainable clothing for plus size women. So go, Michaela. And then we have Miss Kenya from Coyle, Alan from Hillsman, and also Miley from Bernie Harris. They all want to go into immigration law. And then last but not least, Miss Kaden Jones wants to be an OBGYN. And so I am so looking forward, and I'm gonna try not to cry, Miss Kaden, okay? So I'm so looking forward to the impact that you're gonna have on this world, all 5 of you. You guys will do great things. I always cry, so please forgive me. It's hard to stand here, not as the director, but as the former school counselor from Miley and Kaden, and watch this growth for them. So y'all forgive me, but I'm super proud to be able to present this to them tonight. So students, as your names are called, please come forward to receive your trophy and that big, large check of $10,000 symbolizing your scholarship. And please stay on stage until I, tell you to move. So first up, we have Miss Kaden Jones, our overall highest score in the district, from Bernie Harris Lyons Middle School. And I'm gonna tell a little story about Kaden real quick. When I first met her at Bernie Harris, she was getting on to her big brother. And she said, if you don't go to class and behave, and I knew then, I said, oh my gosh, look at this leader, because she was telling big brother what to do when she was a 6th grader. So great job, Kaden. If we could get her parents up here, her parents to take pictures with her. Her family, let me say her family, I'm sorry. go on up. Okay, if we could get Dr. Clark to stand with Caden, please. Okay, all school personnel, that's Dr. Clark and any of her staff members that are here. Please stand with Caden for a picture. Thank you for the reminder, Ms. Barbazan. Again, congratulations to Caden Jones, our district winner.
Shouldn't you?
And then also, Caden will stand with Dr. Hooker and the board members, please. I'm good, trust, I'm good. This is not about me, this is about Caden, I'm good. So again, congratulations to Caden. All right, thank you so much. Next up from Hoyle Middle School, Ms. Kenya Gonzalez Chavez. All right. Kenya's family, please join her on the stage. And we'll, with Kenya's family, let's get Coyle Middle School, Dr. Ford and her staff. I love how y'all are representing that green. Ms. Kenya and Dr. Hooker and the board, please. Next up, we have Alan Madera from Hillsman Middle School. Alan, your family can join you on stage. All right, staff from Hillsman Middle with Dr. Vaughn, please join them on stage. Okay, Alan, the board members, and Dr. Hooker, please. Next up, another Bernie Harris baby, Miss Miley Tennis Bardera is the second student in her family to receive the Reach Scholar Award. Miley, your family can now join you on stage. Okay, Miley, stay put. Now we got to ask Dr. Clark and the rest of her staff to come join you. Mom, y'all stay. Congratulations again. Don't move. Miley and Dr. Hooker and the board, please. No. Thank you. Okay, Miley, if you would step this way, please. And last but not least, Miss Michaela Ballard from Clark Middle. Michaela's gonna keep me broke when she gets that plus size clothing line going. All right now, Miss Michaela Ballard.
Better, Michaela.
All right, Michaela got a big group, so Michaela's family join her on stage, please. All right, Michaela, we're gonna ask Clark Middle to join you up there. Hope we got enough room for everybody. Awesome, great job. All right, up next, Dr. Hooker and the board with Michaela. Okay, let's give them another round of applause. Congratulations to our REACH scholars. Dr. Hooker, you're up next for a couple of remarks for our REACH scholars, and then we will close out our REACH celebration with Mr. Stephen Nobles. Guys, you can return back to your seats, and again, Dr. Hooker is going to give some remarks.
All right, thank you. I would like to say congratulations to the 2028 future graduates of our high school. You are so deserving, and we look forward to the great things that are going to take place as you matriculate through our high schools. And thank you, Ms. Johnson and your team, for making this event happen. We're very appreciative, and families, thank you for coming out and supporting this effort. This has been a tremendous occasion this afternoon, and we're glad that you're here to support our scholars. Thank you.
Okay, so a little modification to the agenda. I'm going to close out real quick, and thank you again, everybody, for coming tonight to support our scholars. We're going to get ready to move back to the onboarding room for the reception. If you guys would allow the scholars to go first so that they can get some food, and then everybody will follow after. Thank you so much.
Okay, Dr. Hooker, that concludes our recognitions for this evening. I'll now turn the floor back over to Dr. Gant and the board to share any recognitions they may have. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We'll give just a few seconds to transition. always takes them a little while, like when it's a lot of people to transition out. Yeah. All right, thank you. And congratulations again to all of our award recipients. We are going to move forward with excuse me, before we move forward to item 5, which is public comment, I just want to check with my board colleagues to be sure there are no, if you have any announcements or recognitions, if you would share those at this time. Mr. Denson?
I just wanted to say thank you to Superintendent and his cabinet, and of course these board members for seeing through the process of coming out from under review of Cognia, I think, and being honored as a good standing board, which I think this board is, and I'm proud to be on it with all of y'all. And I think it was about time that that was recognized. So great job to all of us and all of y'all, so thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Denson. Ms. Hall?
Mine is just very short. Gaines Elementary has a Lego club. I'm really excited about that. Really, really excited about that.
That's so awesome. Thank you for sharing. Anyone else at this time? Okay. Oh, Ms. Davis?
I'll share that, all of these emails come across, and so while I miss some, I get some. And I had an opportunity last week to go and visit a skills challenge for construction. That was an exciting pathway to look at. It was held in Gainesville, Georgia. And again, they had competitions for bricklaying, masonry, forklift drivers. It was held in almost a pasture, in a barn-like setting. There's another one coming up in Macon, I believe, in the week before Thanksgiving. So if you're interested in what that construction pathway looks like in action with the support of a major contractor, I would highly suggest that you take a look at, maybe going down to take a look at that. It was really exciting to see the kids doing that work. So that was cool.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing. Additional, Ms. Butts?
I just like to say last Friday with the renaming of the 2 schools, just to see the students out there, the dance teams, the cheerleaders, it was just wonderful to see everybody. It was a great, great time. Yeah.
Thank you. Ms. Anderson, any? Oh, okay. I just want to echo and just a thank you to the district, again, Dr. Hooker, for all of the effort that was put into the school renaming. Sincerely appreciate it. Don't think that there are words really to describe it. Also want to echo what Mr. Denson has said, not to belabor the point, but if I am going to belabor the point, I would want to do it for this. I want to publicly thank the board and the school district and Dr. Hooker, as well as superintendents before, Dr. Thomas, district staff, Ms. Palmer has kept a lot of this going. I know Mr. Barlaman and Ms. Boness with submitting our reports for us. And I think it's appropriate to thank my board colleagues as well. Obviously, any governance team and any team, there is always room for improvement, but we are such a strong team. And I don't say that publicly just to say it, but we are a strong team, and it is a delicate balance being a liaison between the community and representing students who really have no official vote in matters, and then governing as a unit. And I am so appreciative of your commitment, your work, and your dedication, and your genuineness, not losing your voice to represent what you think is right for children. And so I wanted to publicly say that because we get to these places together, and we've done a lot in 4 years, and we should be proud. And we are very grateful for the support of each other. I'm very grateful for that, but also for the support of the district. Lastly, real quick, I'll share, I think all of us got this, but there is a production happening at the Morton Theater. And it is on I think it's I knew I was going to do this. Oh, there it is. It's on the 26th at 4. And from my understanding, Dr. Hooker, these are our students. And so just wanted to share that out and thank the Morton Theater for continuing to, engage our students in our district. And so I hope it is something that many of us will check out and support our students. So.
And I do want to tack on to that. This is the Morton Theater Corporation that's doing this production. It's their first one like this, and so it is an historic moment. And I hope that we'll be able to record it, because I think I won't be in town. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, so if there are no additional recognitions and announcements, we will move forward to our public comment. And just a reminder for public comments, more of the details and the guidance for public participation in board meetings can be found in policy BCBI. I'll just pull out a couple of reminders that each individual speaker will have up to 3 minutes to speak, and at this point, remarks must be concluded. No speaker will indulge in personal attacks, and all comments are to be addressed directly to the Board of Education. Board members will not respond to questions or comments from the public. However, the district may respond to public input as needed or as appropriate within 10 working days. And then lastly, the use of obscene, profane, vulgar, physically threatening, or abusive remarks will not be allowed. Loud and boisterous conduct or comments by speakers or members of the audience are also not allowed. According to my records here, we have 3 speakers this evening. The first person is Arrow Callahan.
My name is Arrow Callahan. I'm an 8th grade student at Clark Middle. I previously spoke at the board meeting with the Science Energy Adventure Team, SEAT, but today I'm here to advocate for the inclusion of solar energy to the new Clark Middle School. I will not be at Clark Middle School when the new school opens, but I care about making it a better place for future students. Solar energy is a good way to reduce our carbon footprint. It is essential that we work together to mitigate the effects of climate change. My teachers have been providing me and my classmates with lots of opportunities to learn about the many benefits of solar energy. It would be really helpful for them to have solar on the campus to teach even more students in the future. Solar panels are visible evidence that our community cares about reducing its carbon footprint. Several schools in Georgia have worked to add solar panels to their campuses or even to be 100% solar. If I visited Clark Middle School and I saw a roof covered in solar panels or a few solar arrays on the grounds, I would feel amazing because I would know that my school district cares about the environment and cares about keeping Clark Middle School a place where students can learn and thrive. Lots of people feel the same way as I do about the possibility of having solar at Clark Middle, and more than 700 people have signed our online petition, which I would like to present to Dr. Gant. It will also be sent to the board in digital form. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, thanks so much, Arrow. We'll move forward to our next speaker, Austin Pope. Ms. Austin? Okay. All right, we will move forward. Graham Jarbo.
Can y'all hear me okay? All right. Hello, my name is Graham Jarbo. I'm an 8th grade math teacher at Clark Middle. I also went to Ccsd schools for all of my education when I was younger. I believe we're really lucky to have a group of activist students, engaged students who have something that they want to stand up for. Every successful movement, whether it's civil rights or any other type of justice, has had sort of a core, strong youth group of activists that were embraced by their community. I think we should do the same thing here. To be honest, in schools, we do a lot of removing autonomy from students. We tell them how to dress. We tell them what curriculums and what books they're going to read. We tell them what classes they have to take, where they have to sit, which side of the hallway they have to walk on. We're constantly taking away kids' choice and autonomy. While on the other side being talked to about how we need to have student choice in our lessons, and this is a really powerful element of education. And I agree with that. And so I think, especially considering one of the beliefs in our strategic plan, we must embrace new ideas, techniques, and technologies to be responsible to the evolving needs of our learners and the rapidly changing world. I just think it's really important that we engage with that authentically. If we want students to be leaders, I think we need to let them lead, and sometimes when it's an easy win, it's a good time to show those students, the youth, that we're there on their side. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we are going to move forward. Again, thank you for your public comments. The district and board appreciates the input of our community stakeholders. Item 6, the floor is open to amend and/or adopt the agenda.
I move that we adopt the agenda as presented.
I'll second.
Okay, any follow-up conversation, discussion? All in favor of adopting the agenda as listed before us, if you would raise your hands and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, so that motion passes. We will move forward with the agenda that's printed before us. We'll turn the floor over to you, Dr. Hooker, for item 7.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Again, I would like to reiterate what board members have stated about the positive note, that report that we received from Cognia. It's important to note that they were complimentary of the board's efforts to work collaboratively with the focus on student support and success. Again, in the past 4 years, we've made great strides, and I look forward to us continuing to move forward in improving student achievement and working together to make that happen. All right, congratulations to our November Employee of the Month, Ms. Patricia Morris, at the Counseling Department at Cedar Shoals High School. Ms. Morris worked to keep it running smoothly, and it's so important to our students as they work towards graduation and in their 3 E's, the employment, enrollment, and enlistment. This week is National School Psychology Week. Many thanks to all of our school psychologists led by Ms. Anna Morgan for the great work they do in each day for our students. We are celebrating National Native American History Month during November. Of course, this Saturday is Veterans Day, a day which we thank those who have served our country through the military service. We've had a few busy weeks in the district. Thank you to all who attended the celebration of Ms. Betty Henderson Holston and Ms. Johnny Leigh Burke during the renaming ceremonies last Friday. Both schools did an amazing job of creating a day that will be remembered by not only the honorees and their guests, but by the faculty, staff, and community and most importantly, the students for their many years to come. I was fortunate this past Saturday to speak at Fowler Drive as they hosted the Latinx event. This provided information and resources to our families from whom English is the primary home language, which is not the primary home language for those students. In other outreach, we had a community resource fair at Rock Springs Community Center in conjunction with the Athens Housing Authority, representatives from the schools that serve Rock Springs community, as well as representatives from many departments, including our social work department, Clark Middle Health Center, CTAE, and special ed were on hand to assist families to answer any questions. And we will hold another event at Nellie B Community Center on December the 14th. Our district also supported Breast Cancer Awareness Month with the Pink Out on October the 31st. The district office, along with many schools, will once again be participating in the Athens-Clarke County Relay for Life to raise money and awareness for the American Cancer Society. And this was our kickoff event. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you for those updates, Dr. Hooker. Any follow-up questions for Dr. Hooker? All right, we will move forward to item 8, and this is our consent agenda that we've already built at our previous meeting. The floor is open for a motion.
I move that the consent agenda be adopted as presented.
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. Davis, a second by Ms. Hull. All in favor of adopting the consent agenda as presented, if you would raise your hands and say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, we will move forward to our number 9, which is action items, and this is the Sustainability Advisory Committee. The floor is open for motion.
I'll move to approve the creation of the Sustainability Advisory Committee.
Oh, okay. Okay. Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Denson, a second by Dr. Yeager. Any follow-up conversation or questions?
I'll just say I'm excited for us to take this important step forward. Greatly appreciate the leadership of Dr. Yeager also in working on this. But mostly, I think just definitely thanking and appreciating a lot of our community residents and a lot of our students, especially the ones from Clark Middle, but also other ones who have really been spearheading the importance of us taking some steps for sustainability for the school district, because it has an impact on this entire community, the future. So I'm very proud that we're doing this. And I'm also very proud of the way that this board kind of worked on this, so that we're gonna make sure that we are forwarding out and putting in front the voices of the students who are the ones who probably be most impacted by these kind of policies that we make now, because they'll be living in this future that we're gonna have this impact on. So I'm glad that they're gonna be a part of this and helping us steer this, and I hope that it can really have a nice impact on some of the future capital projects that we have going on, and knowing that even phase 2 of Clark Middle is still a little ways off, that maybe we could see some solar panels on the roofing or somewhere else on that as part of phase 2. So yeah, I'm very excited about this.
Thank you, Mr. Denson. Any additional discussion? All right. All in favor of approving the Sustainability Advisory Committee, if you would raise your hands and say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Same signs. Okay, that motion passes. We are at item 10, which is adjournment. The floor is open.
I move that we adjourn.
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. Davis, a second by Ms. Hull. Seeing that there are no objections, we are adjourned at 7:53 p.m. Thank you. Have a good evening.